back to another video. So in this video, we'll be building a fully fledged e-commerce application using Next.js and Tailwind CSS, and we'll be making use of Sanity as the backend. And if you find this interesting, please smash the like button and also subscribe for more such content. So let's get started. So firstly, let's look into the demo of the app. So let's head over to Chrome. Alright, so this is the app and this is the initial homepage as you can see. So we have a basic minimalistic header as you can see over here, and after the header we have a banner, and on the banner we have a bunch of image cards being shown, and we can also scroll through the images of the banner just like this. Okay, and after the banner we have something known as today's deals as you can see, where we have a bunch of products. So all of this data is coming directly from the backend, that is Sanity. And after that we're going to make a API call and fetch different kinds of products based on the category just like this. Alright, and we have the cart system implemented with the help of Redux. So Redux is going to take care of the cart system, that is adding item to the cart, removing item from the cart, and increment quantity and decrement quantity as well. So we also have the product info screen design. So let's say if I press on any one of the product, it's going to go into the next screen and show the information regarding this particular product, okay, with the description, color, size and the total price. All right, so if I hover over the images, you can see that being changed over here. All right, so now let's add some items into the cart. Let's say I add the first 3 items. Okay, so all of them have been added to the cart. So let's press on the cart icon over here. We're going to go into the cart screen just like this. All right, so here we have of course the information of all of the products that are being added to the cart just like this, and we can increase the quantity of that product. So the same thing is going to get reflected over here along with the subtotal. Okay, so if you press on the delete item, automatically this product gets deleted from this particular cart. Okay, just like this. And for the payment part, we have the Stripe integration being set up. So let's go and press on this button, that is the place order button. So as you can see, we have a Stripe checkout being set up for us with the cart items and its description along with the price. All right, so let's enter the email with the card information. And I'm going to write the name on the card. Okay, and I'm then going to press on pay, and currently this payment is in test mode as you can see. So let's press on pay. So after this we're going to come into the success screen which says order placed successfully. All right, so we'll be implementing this in this project, and if you find this interesting, please smash the like button and let's get started with the project right away. So the first step is to create a Next.js application. So let's go do that. So currently I'm inside my build folder. So over here, firstly I'm going to write npx create next app at latest, and I'm going to press on enter. So this should ask us a bunch of questions starting from our app name. So what is your project name? So in my case, I'm going to say ECommerce web, and I'm going to press on enter. You can give any project name. Would you like to use TypeScript? I'm going to press on no. For ESLint, yes. Would you like to use Tailwind CSS? Yes. Would you like to use the source directory? Yes, we're going to use this. And for App Router, we're going to press on yes. So for this, we're going to press on no. So as you can see, it is initializing a project with this project structure, that is ECommerce web. So let's give it a couple of minutes. Alright guys, so our project has been initialized as you can see, created ECommerce web. So now the next step is we're going to go into that particular project structure and look into the file tree. So firstly I'm going to press on file, open folder, go into the build folder and ECommerce web. So this is basically the project structure that Next.js has given us when we initialize a new Next.js application. And as you can see, this is the source directory that is created for us. Okay, and inside the source directory, we have something called as the App Router. So previously, if you would observe, we had something known as the Pages Router in the previous version. So since we're using the next 13 version, we have something known as the App Router. And this is the main page.js where all of the code is currently being present. Okay. So now the next step is firstly we're going to run the application. So to do that, firstly press on terminal, new terminal, and as you can see we are currently into the ECommerce web directory. So here I'm going to say yarn run dev. So I'm going to press on enter. So as you can see, our app is being hosted on this particular URL, that is http localhost 3000. So let's press on this link. Okay, so as you can see, this is our initial project being loaded. Okay, so this is being shown because of all of this particular design. So let's remove everything. So I'm literally going to remove all of the three divs and save the file. So as you can see, everything is gone. So currently the screen is black because of the default styling that they've given, that is present inside of the CSS file, I guess. That is over here, globals.css. So let's try and remove all of this. That's not required, and save the file. Okay, so as you can see, currently we are in the correct design, that is in the white background. So now let's go into the page.js and let's initialize a text field. Let's say a h2 tag. Here we're going to say let's build a e-commerce web app. Okay, something like this, and save the file. As you can see, we are able to see that text. So currently it is towards the center of the screen, but we want everything to start from the leftmost part, that is over here, right? So let's make that change. So let's remove everything from the main styling. All right, and we're going to save the file. As you can see, now that's looking better. So everything is going to start from this particular portion, that is from the leftmost part. So now the next step is we're going to start designing our web page. So firstly, this is the initial thing that I showed you. Okay, so the first step is to design the header part. So we're going to look into that. So let's firstly come into the file tree and then create a new component folder. So I'm going to go into my app folder and then create a new folder called as the components folder over here. So I'm going to say components, just like this. And inside the components, we're going to create the first file, that is the header.js file. So I'm going to say header.js, press on enter, and then I'm going to write RFCE to get the shorthand snippet. Right, so to get the shorthand snippet, you need to have installed ES7 inside your system. So if you go to the extensions tab over here, okay, you need to install this one, okay, ES7, and along with that you can look into the other extensions that I've installed. There is IntelliCode and then Prettier and all those other extensions. All right, so now let's come back to our header.js file. We're going to import this header into the page.js over here instead of this h2. So here I'm going to say import header from the components folder, just like this. So save the file. Let's go check out our web page. You should be seeing header over here. All right, so now let's start designing a header inside our header.js file. So firstly, instead of the div, I'm going to make use of the header tag. All right, so over here I'm going to initialize my div firstly, and inside the div it's going to have three divs. So this is going to be the left part. I'm going to initialize my div over here, which is going to contain basically a span which says e-commerce, and over here also it's going to contain a span, let's say marketplace, and I'm going to press on enter. As you can see, you're able to see both of the text being seen on the screen. So firstly, let's give the style for the header over here. So the way we give Tailwind is, the way we give Tailwind styles is with the help of the class name. You can look into the Tailwind documentation for better understanding of the styles. So for the class name over here, I'm going to say a BG of white. I'm going to give a padding vertical of 4. So it's going to be a PY of 4, and then I'm just going to say a drop shadow of medium. Save the file. So as you can see, we have that shadow being applied and the background color also being applied. So now we're going to give the style for this particular div, which is going to contain three divs. Okay, so I'm going to say class name, firstly container, or firstly I'm going to say MX auto, and I'm going to give a padding X of 4, flex, and item center, and justify between. I think let's give this piece of styling after we initialize all of the three divs, then it's gonna look better, I guess. So yeah, let's remove this out. So firstly, let's start styling out the span tag over here. So I'm gonna say class name for this one. So this needs to be in blue color. That is a marketplace text. So here I'm gonna say text blue of 500, and I'm gonna give a font of bold. Save the file. So for this span which contains e-commerce, I'm going to give the class name. So here I'm going to say text Excel, and I'm going to give a cursor of pointer, and I'm going to give a font of bold over here as well. So font of bold and margin left of 2. So as you can see, that's looking better. Alright, so now let's come back, and we have the next thing, that is a center part which contains 3 different texts, that is offers, products, and then deals. So let's look into that. So let's format once. Okay, so to get the Tailwind suggestions, you need to install that extensions as well. So I think that is Tailwind CSS only. Let's search for that. Yeah, this one. You need to install this, I guess, Tailwind CSS, to get the extensions while writing the styles. Okay, yep, this one. So let's come back to the header.js file, and after this div, we're going to initialize a second part. That's going to be the middle part. So for that also, I'm going to initialize one more div over here. So I'm going to say div, and here it's going to have 3 p tags. So I'm going to say p tag 1 offers, the second p tag that's going to be products, and the third p tag that's going to be our deals. So save the file. So as you can see, that's looking okay. So now we're going to give the style for the outermost div. So I'm going to say class name. So firstly, we're going to make this look responsive as well, as much as possible. Alright, so the styles, whatever we give inside of the Tailwind, firstly that gets applied to the mobile screen, and after that we have different kinds of breakpoints, starting from the small screen, the medium screen, the large screen, and the extra large screen. So over here, for this middle part, I want it to be hidden on the mobile screen. So for that reason, I'm going to write hidden. Okay, so this defaultly gets applied to the small screen, that is the mobile screens. And from the small screens, I want it to be flex. Okay, and then flex row, and then space x of 4. So format once and save the file. So as you can see, it is currently end row. Okay, whereas if you check out this in small screens, it's not gonna be seen because we've given it as hidden. All right, so yep, that's the way it's gonna work. And after that, we're gonna have the final section, that is the right section over here. Now I'm gonna say right part over here. So this is basically gonna have, of course, the button and the icon. So over here also, I'm gonna initialize my view. All right, and I'm going to initialize my button which says your cart. And to get the icon, firstly we need to install a dependency, that is the hero icons. So let's go to that. So let's search for hero icons, Next.js. Let's just search for hero icons. All right, let's go into this one, that is a GitHub, and I think, yeah, we can install with the help of this one, hero icon/react. So let's open up a new terminal. We're going to install this with the help of yarn add hero icon/react. So after installing the dependency, firstly let's head over to hero icons and get the required icon. So here we want the shopping cart icon, that is this one. So let's go over here, heroicons.com, or I guess it's going to be this one. Yeah, this one. Search for shopping cart. We're going to use this one. Press on name and just copy both the pieces of code, that is this one, and the import code and the render component. So we're going to paste it over here and copy this piece of code, and firstly initialize a link attribute after the button, because if you press on this, we need to head over to the cart screen. So let's import the link from next / link, and here paste the icon. All right, and over here we need to make use of React, otherwise it's gonna error out. Okay, so yeah, let's save the file and let's check out our website. Okay, so I think for the link we need to give the href, otherwise it's gonna error out like this. So for the time being, I'm gonna say href / cart. Okay, so as you can see, we are able to see the icon being shown on the screen. So now we're gonna give the style for the outermost view, outermost div, that is this one. So here I'm gonna say mx auto, a padding x of 4. We're gonna give flex, items of center, and I'm gonna give justify between, and save the file. And just like this, our header is looking good. So now we're going to give the styling for this particular right section, because it needs to be in the row format. So firstly, let's come over here, the right part. So initialize the class name. Here I'm going to say flex. Firstly, I wanted to have a space x of 4, so space x of 4, and I'm going to say item center. So for the button, I'm going to give the style class name. So the button, I want it to be hidden on the mobile screens, so I'm going to say hidden over here, and from the medium screen onwards I want it to be inline block. All right, and over here I'm going to give the text blue of 500. I want it to have a border, so I'm going to say initialize the border for me, and the border is going to be this color, border blue of 500, and it's going to have a padding x of 4 and a padding y of 2. Padding x means horizontal spacing, padding y means vertical spacing. Okay, that is in the internal container. I want it to be rounded, and I want it to have a hover functionality as well, so I'm going to say hover. Let's give a bg blue of 50, and yeah, I think that's it. So let's format once and save the file. So as you can see, that's looking better. All right, so yep, I think we need to give it max width, I guess, because it's coming towards the center part almost. So let's make that change. So to do that, okay, firstly over here I'm going to come into this particular div, and I'm going to basically give a max width of 6 XL. Okay, so that it looks better, just like this. Okay, or I think we can give 7 XL. Yep, I think 7 XL is looking good. Okay, so the first part of the design has been done, that is the header part. So now the next step is we're going to initialize the banner, and on top of the banner we're going to initialize a bunch of image cards just like this over here. So for the banner, we're going to come into the terminal and then initialize a new dependency for it. So we'll be using something called as React responsive carousel. So let's go install that. So here I'm going to say yarn add React responsive carousel. Okay, and then I'm going to press enter. So firstly, let's head over to Chrome, and then let's look out for this dependency. So the first link. So here we'll be making use of the carousel component that they've given, and then we'll be rendering the images. So let's check out our package.json once. So as you can see, React responsive carousel has been installed. So I'm going to create a new component inside my components folder. Let's say hero banner.js and rfce to get the shorthand snippet. Save the file, and over here we're going to import our carousel component. Okay, and along with this we need to import the CSS styles of this particular dependency, that is this one. So let us let's copy this out. Let's copy both of it, and we're gonna paste it over here. All right, so now the next step is we're gonna initialize our carousel, and this carousel, as you can see over here, is gonna take in the div with the images. So I'm just gonna get all of the images and paste it over here. Okay guys, I just pasted all of the images. I'll be sending all of the images in the description, you can check it out. So let's format once, and now I'm going to give some options to the carousel over here. So here I'm going to say a dynamic height equals to true, and I'm going to say show status equals to false, and I'm going to give show indicators equals to false, and I'm going to say show thumbs equals to false. So let's format once and save the file. Let's import this component into our main page.js. Hero banner, import it like this from the components folder, save the file. Let's look into our website over here. Okay, let's refresh once. Okay, super expression must either be a null or a function not undefined. So let's look into where we've gone wrong, I guess. Most probably over here, I think we need to make use of the use client directive. Hopefully that is what is causing the error, I'm not sure. Use client. Yep, as you can see, that's looking better. Okay, so basically this use client is a kind of convention to declare a boundary between the server and the client component. So I'm going to make use of that in the header as well, because it's a client component. So this is basically a kind of directive that we are using. It's use client. So yep, as you can see, we are able to see the images just like this. Okay, it's looking good. So now on this banner, we're going to produce a bunch of cards that's going to come over here. So firstly, let me get the data for the cards and paste it over here. Okay guys, I've just pasted the cards data. So over here, it is an array of objects, and each card is going to have a unique ID, a unique image, and a description for that particular card. I'll be sending this data also in the description, you can use it. So with the help of this data, we're going to design the cards. So okay, I think I pasted it in the wrong screen, wrong component. So we're going to paste it in the hero banner. So with the help of this, we're going to start designing the cards. So firstly, initialize a div for that over here, and we're going to map over the cards since it is an array. So cards.map, for every item and the index, I want you to return a new div. So this div in turn is going to contain the h1 tag, and it's going to contain the image. So to access the h1 tag, that is the description, it's going to be item.description, as you can see in the data over here. So over here, I'm going to say item.description, and below the h1 tag, we're going to have the image. So if you check out the website, so firstly the h1 tag and then the image. So over here, we're going to initialize my image tag. So image tag is going to contain, of course, the source. So to access the URL, it's going to be item.image. So yep, let's write that. It's going to be item.image, and yep, let's save the file, and let's give the key for this. Key is going to be index. So as you can see, we are able to see the image as well as the description. So now we're going to give the style for the image over here. So class name, firstly I'm going to give object of cover, and I want it to have a width of 80 and a height of 80 as well, and save the file. Okay, as you can see, that's looking good. So now we're going to give the style for this particular image, this particular h1 tag. We're going to give it a font of bold. We're going to give it a text of Excel. Now we're going to give the style for the outermost div. So class name, first it's going to have some internal spacing, that is padding of 4 and a bg of white. It's going to have a full width. It's going to have a border, and it's going to have a shadow of medium, and it's going to have a flex, and we're going to keep it as flex column, and we're going to give basically space y of 3, and save the file. So as you can see, our cards are ready. So now we're going to give the style for the outermost div, that is this one. So class name. So firstly, we want this cards, that is these cards to come on this banner. So for that, we'll be making use of absolute positioning. So firstly, we need to make our parent as relative, right? So over here, we're going to give class name. We're going to make this look relative. And yeah, for this class name, I'm going to give this style. And I want this these cards to be hidden on the mobile screen. So firstly, I'm going to give it as hidden. And I'm going to give it a padding y of 10, padding x of 10, and from the large screen onwards I want it to be flex row. I want it to be in the row format, and I wanted to give a space x of 3, and I wanted to have an absolute positioning just like this, a margin top of 2, and I wanted to have a top value of 1/3 so that it fits its position from that particular top view. So top is going to be 1/3, and just like this you need to be seeing the cards on the image, on the banner, and we're able to scroll through this as well. Okay, so as you can see, that's looking good, and this is only available in the large screen because this design doesn't look good on the mobile screens. So for that reason, I've just hidden it in the mobile screens. Okay, so this banner part is done. So the next step we'll be looking into is we're going to start designing the deals part of it, where we have a bunch of items that is which says today's deals, and we're going to design that. So firstly, let's come over here, and I think we're going to create a new component in the components folder, and we're going to say deals.js and rfce. Save the file. So to design the deal screen, we need some data, right? So I'm just going to copy down the data over here. Okay, so we have the offers array. So over here, it is again an array of objects. All right, so each object is going to have a unique ID, the title of the product, the offer, the old price, the image, the carousel images of that particular product, and pretty much these two color and then size of that particular product. Okay, so with the help of this, we're going to start and design the deals screen, deals component. So firstly over here, I need access to my h1 tag, which says your deals, or we're going to say today's deals. So I'm going to say today's deals. Save the file. So firstly, we're going to give some styling to the outermost div. So I'm going to say class name. So here I'm going to say margin top of 4, and margin on the x-axis to be 10. Okay, and from the medium screen, I want the margin top to be 32. Okay, because we have the cards being shown, because this design should come below the cards. So for that reason, I'm giving from the medium screen margin top to be 32. Anyhow, from the small screen, we do not have the images, the image cards. So for that reason, I'm giving margin top of 4. So for this h1, I'm going to give the style. So class name. So this is going to have basically a text of Excel. We have the font of bold, and we're going to give some space towards the bottom, that is margin bottom of 3. So let's go into the web page and let's refresh once. Okay, I think I forgot to import this component into the main page.js. So let's import deals over here just like this and save the file. So let's refresh now. Okay, so as you can see, we are able to see today's deals. So yep, now let's come back to the deals component, and below the h1 tag, I'm going to initialize my div, and I'm going to map over the posts. So I'm going to say posts.map. So for every item and the index, I want to return a whole new div. So this div, the first thing is going to contain the image. So the image is going to take in the source src. It's going to be item.image. All right, so for the image, I'm going to give the style. So we check out over here. Firstly, we have the image, the deal, and then that particular name. So we're going to do that similarly over here as well. So firstly, the class name for the image, we're going to give it, let's say, a width of 32, height of 32, and I'm going to give an object of contain, and we're going to give some styling for this particular div. Firstly, we're going to give it a padding of 2, internal spacing, and I wanted to have a background color of white, so I'm going to say bg of white and cursor pointer so that we can press on it, and we're going to give it some shadow, so shadow of medium, and I'm going to say flex column because all of the items are in column format. And after that, I'm going to give a space on the y-axis of all the children, so space y of 2, and item center, justify center. So let's see how it's looking. Let's come over here. Okay, posts is not defined, is it? So yep, I think I've given the wrong name. It needs to be offers, so offers.map. All right, so as you can see, you're able to see that posts being on the screen. Okay, so now let's give the styling. Let's initialize one more view that is going to display all of the information over here. So this is going to contain a p tag which says up to, access the offer, that's going to be item.offer, and we're going to write the percentage over here. So we're going to say percentage, just like this, and we're going to have basically a span tag over here. So let's initialize my span. Here it's going to be a deal of the day. So we're going to give the style firstly for the span. So initialize the class name. So it's going to have a different text color. So I'm going to say text rows of 600. Our font is going to be normal. And we're going to give text of small and margin left of 1. So firstly, let's give the styling for this particular div, that is this one. So I'm going to say class name over here. So firstly, I'm going to say flex, and then flex column. So this means that this these two stylings is going to get applied for the mobile screens, that is flex and flex column, because the mobile screens is short, right? So from the medium screen onwards, I want it to be in the form of a row. So I'm going to say flex, and medium screen it's going to be flex row. All right, and from the medium screen I want the space also to be 3, so that is space on the x-axis to be 3. So format once. So as you can see, that's looking better. So if you check out the same design in the mobile screen, it's gonna be in the format of it's gonna be in the column format. All right, so yep, that's looking better. So I think we have 2 times percentage is being shown. So 72 percentage. I don't think this is required, I guess. Let's remove this once. Yep, I think now it's looking better. So now after the p tag, we're going to have one more p tag over here, which is going to give us the name. So I'm going to say p tag, initialize this, and it's going to be item dot title. So since the title might be long, I'm going to make use of the substring method, and I'm just going to give the first 30 characters. So let's give the class name for this. So I want it to truncate, not overflow. So I'm going to say truncate, and I wanted to have a font of normal and a text of small, and I wanted to have a margin top of 1. So yep, so as you can see, that's looking better. Okay, so we have designed the header, the banner portion, and as well as the today's deals. All right, so now the next step is we're gonna design the remaining part of the product feed that's gonna come after the deals, right? So firstly, we're gonna initialize a new component. Let's name it as product feed.js rfce to get the shorthand snippet. Save the file and make sure you import the product feed from the components folder, just like this. And as you can see, we are able to see the product feed. So now in the later part of the video, all of this data is going to come from the Sanity backend. All right, so now the next step is we're going to make an API call, I think, in the product feed.js, and then we're going to design the remaining portion, that is all of this product cards that are being seen over here. So over here, we're going to start making the API call inside our product feed component. So I'm going to initialize a function over here at the top, or let's say async function get data. So we'll be making use of the fake store API. So firstly, let's head over to Chrome and I'm going to search for fake store API and get into the docs. Okay, so we're going to fetch all of the products. That is going to give us the products with all of the categories as well. So we're going to make use of this one. So let's come back over here, and inside the async function get data, firstly I'm going to initialize my result. Here I'm going to say const result equals to await fetch. I'm going to make use of the fetch method and I'm going to pass in the URL. So that's going to be this itself. So copy that out and paste it over here. All right, and here I'm going to check the condition, that is if at all not of result.ok. Then here I'm going to say throw new error which says failed to fetch the data. And if at all everything works out correctly, then just return me all of the data in the JSON format. So to do that, I'm going to say return result.json. That's it. Okay, so now inside my product field, inside my product feed, firstly I'm going to initialize my state to hold all of the products. So here let's make use of the directive, that is use client, and here I'm going to say const products comma set products equals to use state. All right, so over here I'm going to pass in an empty array at the initial state. Okay, now I'm going to initialize my use effect and call my function over here. I'm going to make the use effect run one time, so I'm just going to provide an empty dependency array, as you can see, and let's import two things, that is use state as well as use effect from React. Let's remove this out. So inside my use effect, firstly I'm going to initialize my function, that is async function fetch data, just like this. And inside my fetch data function, I'm going to initialize my try catch block firstly. So I'm going to say try and catch of error. So if at all there is any error while implementing this, just show me that error. So I'm going to say error fetching the data with that particular error. So inside the try block, firstly I'm going to equate it to this particular function to a variable, something like that. So I'm going to say const data equals to await initialize this function, that is call this function over here, that is get data. So this is going to return us the JSON format with all of the products over here. So that should be stored instead of data if at all everything went correctly. So after we get the data, here I'm going to say set the products to be that particular data. Okay, that's it. And we're going to call the function right over here. After we define this, I'm going to say fetch the data. So firstly, let's try and console.log if at all we are getting all of the products that we want. So use effect is imported, use state is imported. So yep, let's save the file. Let's head over to our app over here and let's inspect once. Okay, so over here I'm going to say go to the console, and as you can see we have 20 products, right? So all of the product is going to have the category, each product is going to have the category, description, the ID, the rating, and the title of that particular product. So with the help of this information, you're going to start designing the remaining part of the product feed. Okay, so we are getting all of the details correctly. So let's come back over here, and inside the div, firstly let's map over the products. So here I'm going to say products.map. So for every item and the index, I want you to return a new component. So firstly let's create a new component in the components folder. So I'm going to say product.js rfc to get the shorthand snippet, save the file, and over here I'm going to say for every products for every product inside of this products array that we have obtained, return the product component. So make sure you import the product component from the components folder like this. And for the product component, we're going to pass some information, that is the item itself. So this item corresponds to each and every detail that is present inside of that particular object. All right, and we're going to provide the key for this. That's going to be index. So save the file. So if I go back to the web page, you should be seeing all of the products being shown, as you can see. So we have 20 products. So for that reason, you're able to see 20 products over here on the screen. Okay. So now let's come back and we're going to start designing the product component. So that is over here. Firstly, let's receive the props. Let's destructure it. So I'm going to destructure the item. So now over here inside the div, firstly, I'm going to initialize my p tag and I'm going to show the category. So here I'm going to say item dot category. That's the way to access it. So format once and check out the web page. So as you can see, we have different categories: men's clothing, jewelry, electronics, and women's clothing. So firstly, let's give the style for the outermost view. So here I'm going to give it relative and I'm going to give it basically a flex. I want to give it a border. It's going to be flex column actually. And apart from that, we're going to give it a background color of white, a bit of external spacing, that is margin of 5, a bit of internal spacing, that is padding of 3. So save the file. As you can see, we have all of the categories being listed, okay, with that particular margin and the padding being applied. So now we're going to give the styling. We're going to give another div for this after the p tag, which is going to contain the image of that particular product. So image is going to take in the source. So over here, we're going to say item.image and we're going to give the class name for this. So this is basically, it's going to have a width of 32, a height of 32, and it's going to have object of contain. So let's save once. And as you can see, we're able to see all of the images for that particular product. All right, so let's come back over here. And after the image, we're going to have the ratings being shown. So initialize the h4 tag. So to access the rating, it's going to be item.rating.rate. You can pretty much check out the console once and look into this, how I got this. Okay, it's going to be item.rating.rate. And after this, I'm going to say ratings. Save the file. So as you can see, we're able to see that coming on the screen. So we're going to give the class name for the h4 tag. So firstly, we're going to give it a text of extra small and we're going to give it a text yellow of, let's say, 500. So text yellow of 500 and save the file. So yep, that's looking good. So now after that, we have the description coming in. So we have the p tag for it. So to access the description, it's going to be item.description. So description. Okay, and we're going to give the styling for the description. So let's give the class name over here. So class name, it's going to be basically text of extra small again. So text of extra small, it's going to have a line clamp. So we just need 2 lines to be shown. Okay, so line clamp of 2 and margin top of 1. So save the file. Okay, so once we design this perfectly, you'll be just seeing 2 lines being shown for the description part. So after the p tag, we have the price being shown. So I'm going to initialize a h3 tag and I'm going to say item.price. So let's give the class name for that. So here basically I'm going to give a text of medium. I'm going to give a font of semi-bold, and I'm going to give it a margin top of 1. Let's also give margin top of 1 for the ratings as well. So format once and yep, that's looking good. So after that, firstly, let's come back into the product feed. So here we're going to make use of something called as the grid system, right? So let's give the styling for this particular div. I'm going to say class name. So firstly, I wanted to have a margin horizontal of 6. So mx6, margin top of 8. Firstly, make this container like a grid. So access the grid container like this. And I wanted to have a grid calls of 1. Okay. And this is going to get applied for the small screen because that's the default styling. And from the medium screen, I mean from the small screen, I wanted to have, let's say, a grid calls. So small screen, grid calls of 2, and let's say from the medium screen I want grid calls of 3. So I'm going to say grid columns of 3, and in the large also I wanted to have grid calls of 3, or you can give 4. I'm giving 3, and I'm going to give it a gap of 5 between all of the children, just like this. So as soon as you save the file and you come back to the web page, as you can see, just like this, it's looking really good. Let's see and let's give 4 to the large screen. Let's see how it's looking. Not 5, 4. So save the file. Okay, 4 is also looking good, but I prefer to use 3. You can use 4 if you want to. I'm going to use 3 for the medium screen as well as the large screens. So save the file. All right. So now after that, firstly, let's come back to our product component over here, and we're going to give the styling for the next part after designing the button. So initialize the button. So this is going to say add to cart. So for the button, let's give the styling. So class name, it's going to have basically a padding of 2, some internal spacing. It's going to have a margin top of 2. It's going to have a text of extra small. All right. And from the medium screen, it's going to be text of small, and it's going to have a BG gradient. So I'm going to say BG gradient to bottom. I'm going to say from yellow 200, it's going to go to yellow 400. Okay, so this is the way we apply the gradient to a particular button. So let's check out over here. So as you can see, that's looking nice. Okay, so now the next step is we're gonna give the style for this particular div, because the image is towards the left part. We want the image to be centered in to this particular container. So for that, I'm gonna give the style over here. So firstly, I'm gonna say class name. So it's gonna have basically flex, and it's gonna say justify center. So just like this, the image is gonna come towards the center part. So let's access the rupee symbol and just put it before the price over here. Okay, so just copy this out and we're gonna paste it right over here. That is where we have the price. All right, so yep, I think that's looking good. Okay, so yep, we have designed the product feed component, showing all of the products based on the categories. So the next step we'll be looking into is we're going to initialize Redux. Okay, and then we're going to define different kind of reducers and functions, that is add to cart, remove from cart, increment quantity and decrement quantity, such that if we press on any one of the button of the product, that particular product needs to be added to the cart. So firstly, let's head over to the terminal and install the dependencies required for Redux over here. So here I'm going to paste the code to install the dependency for Redux, that is Redux toolkit. So press on enter. So apart from this, we need one more thing, that is React Redux as well. So here I'm going to say yarn add React Redux and press on enter. So after installing these two dependencies, we're going to create a new folder at the root level. Let's name it as Redux. Okay, and inside Redux, we're going to create a new file, that is the cart reducer.js. So here we're going to write all of the functionalities required to, add item to the cart, remove item from the cart, and so on. So the first step is to import the create slice method. So I'm going to say import create slice from redux.js /toolkit, and here I'm going to say export const cart slice equals to create slice, initialize that method, and this method is going to take in three things: the name, the initial state, and the bunch of reducers that we have. So here the name I'm going to give as the cart, and we're going to pass in an initial state. So since we are building a cart system, a cart can have n number of products, right? So initial state is I'm going to write in cart and I'm going to pass in an empty array over here. So after the initial state, we're going to have the reducers coming in. So I'm going to say reducers. It is also an object. So the first reducer we're going to define is add to cart. So this is going to take in two things, that is the state and the action. Okay, so here we're gonna look into how we can implement the add to cart functionality. So firstly, we're gonna check if at all any kind of product is already present inside of the cart. So if at all any product is already present inside of the cart, and if you press on the add to cart button or the plus button, then in that case we need to simply increase the quantity of that particular product by 1, right? So firstly, let's check the condition, that is if at all the item is present or not. So I'm going to say const item present equals to state. So to access the cart, it's going to be state dot this particular cart. So state dot cart, with the help of find method, I'm going to firstly check if at all the item dot id equals to the action dot payload dot id. So if this becomes true, that means if the item.id equals to the action.payload.id, then that means this particular item is present inside of the cart. So we're going to check if at all the item is present. Then if you press on that button, that is the plus button or the add to cart button, we're going to say item present dot quantity plus plus. Just increase the quantity of that particular product by 1. Else, if the item is not at all present inside the cart, if we are adding any product for the first time into the cart, then that means I'm going to say state.cart push that particular item into the cart. So state.push, firstly whatever is there inside of the action or payload, and initialize the quantity of 1 for that particular cart. Okay, so that's the way the add to cart functionality works. All right. So the next thing we'll be looking into is remove from cart. So this in turn also is going to take in the state and the action. Okay, and firstly we're going to firstly we're going to implement this with the help of the filter method. So I'm going to say const remove item equals to, so here I'm going to say state dot cart with the help of the filter method, which is going to work based on the condition that I give. So the condition is here the item.id should not be equal to the action.payload.id. Okay, so with the help of this functionality, that is a filter method, we're going to remove this particular item from the cart. So after removing, I'm going to say state.cart equals to remove item, which is going to equate it. Just like this, we have implemented the remove from cart functionality. So the next thing we'll be looking into is the increment quantity. So I'm going to say increment quantity. So this in turn is going to take in again the state and action. So here also firstly we're going to check if at all the item is present. If it is present, then just increase the quantity by 1. So this increment quantity is applied on the plus button that is present inside of the cart screen. So here I'm going to say increment quantity dot quantity plus plus. Okay, so that's it about the increment quantity. So the next thing after this we'll be looking into is the decrement quantity. This is the final one. So I'm going to say decrement quantity. It's going to take in the state and action. So here firstly again we're going to check if at all the product is present inside of the cart. So just say, okay, I think I made a mistake over here. This should be item present, not increment quantity. Okay, so in the decrement quantity, firstly check if at all the item is present. So if the item is present, firstly check if at all the quantity of that particular item is equals to 1. So if it is equal to 1, and if you press on the minus button, then that means you need to remove that particular item from the cart. Okay, so if at all, let's say the quantity of that particular product is more than 1, let's say 2, 3 or 4, and if you press on the minus button, then in that case you need to decrease the quantity of that particular product by 1. So here I'm going to check if at all item present dot quantity equals to 1, then in that case simply remove this particular product from the cart. So we have already defined that is remove from cart functionality, so it's going to be the same thing. So just copy that out and paste it over here. Else, then that means the quantity is greater than 1, and then if you press on the minus button, here I'm going to say item present dot quantity minus minus. That's it. So we can define even the clear cart if you want, or the clean cart. So I'm going to say clean cart, and it's going to take in basically the state. So here I'm going to say state dot cart equals to an empty array, which is going to clear the cart. So that's it. So the next step is we're going to we're going to export the required values. We have defined 4 things, that is add to cart, remove from cart, increment quantity, and decrement quantity. Okay, you can look into this once more. And at the bottom part, I'm going to export the required values. So I'm going to say export const add to cart, remove from cart, increment quantity, decrement quantity, and then clean cart equals to cart slice dot actions. All right, so after this I'm going to say export default cart slice dot reducer. So save the file. So now the next step is we need to initialize our main store where all of the data resides. So firstly I'm going to initialize my store over here at the root level. So firstly here I'm going to say store.js. So inside the store.js, firstly I need to import my configure store method. So here I'm going to say import configure store from Redux toolkit, and here I'm going to say export default initialize the method, that is configure store. So this in turn is going to take in all of our reducers. So this is going to take in all of the reducers. So the first thing we have is the cart reducer. So towards the left hand side, you need to give the name of the reducer. So in my case, I'm giving cart, and you need to import that particular reducer. So import cart reducer from the Redux folder, just like this. Okay, so we have defined the reducer inside of our store.js. So now the next step is we're going to include the provider inside of our layout.js. So we're going to include the provider right over here. I'm just going to paste that over here. Okay, so make sure you import provider from React Redux, and this provider is going to take in the store. We have already defined the store, so let's import the store as well from the store.js file. So I think we can remove all of the other things that are not required. Okay, so yep, we can save the file. Hopefully we should see no error. So let's save the file once, and we have error, I guess. Let's check out the web page once. Okay, so here also we're going to make use of the directive, that is use client, just like this, and we're going to save the file. Okay, just like this, everything works fine. Okay, so now we have set up Redux. So now we can use all of the different functions that we just initialized. That is the 4 functions. So before that, the next step is we're going to define the product info screen. That is, if at all I press on any one of the product, it should take me to the next screen and then display the information regarding all of the products, right? So let's come back, and then over here I'm going to create a new folder for our product info screen. Here we'll be introducing something known as the dynamic routes. Okay, so we have a bunch of products over here. So if you check out our web page, as you can see, we have a bunch of products, but we do not know the user is going to press on which particular product, right? So whichever product the user presses on, we need to be able to show the details of that particular product in the product screen. So basically the URL is going to be, apart from localhost 3000, it's going to be /. Let's say we're going to initialize the product screen. Okay, and it's going to be /ID. So based on this particular ID, we're going to fetch the information of that particular product and then display it in the product screen. So that's the way we're going to implement this. So if you check out once the docs in Next.js, it would be even more clear. So let's go check that out once. So let us search for Next.js. So the first link, and let's press on get started. So if you check out over here, we have the first thing as routing. So here we're going to search for dynamic routes. Okay, so the convention is basically this thing. So after going into a product screen, you can create basically a ID or a slug in this particular format, enclosed in square brackets, right? And yeah, as you can see, we can use this one. So we have the app, we're going to initialize the product, we're going to initialize our ID, and inside that ID, we're going to initialize our page.js and then implement the functionality and the design in that particular page. So let's do the same thing. So inside my app folder, press on app, new folder, that is basically the product screen. So I'm gonna say product. Okay, so after that we have of course the ID of the slug. I'm gonna make use of the ID. So again, product, press on product, and then new folder, this is gonna be ID, and inside this ID we're gonna create a new file that is known as the page.js. so rfce, we are gonna give this as product details. Save the file. So over here also, firstly let me import my what do you say, the offers data, offers, or yeah, this is the one. So let's import this, and I'm gonna paste it over here in the product details, just like this. And over here we're gonna receive basically the params, that is the ID which we pressed on. So basically over here where we render the deals, that is this one, we're going to initialize a link to each of the product over here. That is going to happen in the deals component. Okay, so over here I'm going to initialize my link tag. So make sure you import link from next/link and put all of the div inside the link. Okay, and over here for the link, of course, it's going to take in the href. So let's pass in the href. So basically I'm going to make use of my backticks. So this is going to be for the href. We're going to write, of course, the product, because that's the folder name which we created. So we're going to say product, and after that we're going to go into the ID of that particular product. So if you check out our offers, we have this particular ID. So we're going to go into that particular ID. So over here I'm going to say firstly let's make use of the dollar. It's going to be item.id. So save the file and let's come back over here. So this ID is going to come from over here, that is from the params, that is from the props over here. So let's make this as params, and with the help of this we're going to query that particular product and then show the info of that particular product in the screen. So firstly let's initialize our product. So I'm going to say const product equals to, we have access to the offers, we're going to say offers dot, we're going to make use of the find method, we're going to take in the item. So here the item.id should be equals to the params.id. So if you want, you can console.log the product. So here I'm going to say console.log of the product. So format once. So hopefully if I press on the first product, we should be able to see the product details of that particular first product. So let's give that a try. So I'm going to press on this, it should go into the product. Okay, not this one. Yeah, if I press on this, as you can see, the link at the bottom part, it's saying localhost 2000 /product/0. So let's go to the first one. So as you can see, we are coming correctly to the product info screen of this particular product, right? So now let's go back and let's press on this. Now there should be 1, because the ID of this particular product is 1. That's why you're saying /product/1. All right, so now let's go into this itself, and I'm going to format once, inspect over here and check the product details, if at all we have got any. So let's clear up the console and refresh once. Okay, yeah, as you can see, we're able to see this product. I think this is for, yeah, we are able to see the product. This is for the first one we obtained. I'm not sure why it's not getting for the first one, the second product with the ID of 1, but now it should work. Okay, so with the help of this product, we're gonna start designing our product info screen. So firstly we're gonna have the left part. So let's define a div for that. Okay, and inside the left part, firstly we're going to have the image container. So I'm going to say div, I'm going to initialize my image, it's going to take in the source. So it's going to be product.image. Okay, or we can do one more thing. Actually we have access to the carousel images. So here I'm going to say product.carousel images of, let's say 0 for now, because that's the first image which we want to see. And after that we have the second part, that is showing all of the carousel images just below the main image. So we're gonna do that over here. So here I'm gonna say access the product, map over the carousel images since it is an array. So I'm gonna say map for every item and the index. Okay, I want you to return an image tag. I'm gonna say image. So it's gonna take in the source. So over here it's gonna be the item itself. That's gonna be the source because that's the single thing available in the carousel items array. So we're gonna give the class name for this. That is for the carousel image. It's gonna have a width of 20, a height of 20, and it's gonna have object of contain, and it's gonna have a cursor pointer. And we're gonna give the class name for the main image that is gonna appear at the top. We're gonna give it a width of 80, and it's gonna have height of 80 as well, height of 80, and it's gonna have rounded, let's say small, and we're gonna give object contain and cursor pointer, and we're gonna save the file. So let's see if it is exactly showing up. As you can see, it is working correctly fine. All right, so now we're gonna give the style for the outermost view. Okay, I think we forgot one part. I think we need to also show the header first over here. So let's initialize a header. So I'm gonna initialize firstly my header from the components folder. And after the header, we're gonna initialize our main div that's gonna contain two things. That is, firstly, let's copy this one. This is gonna be the left part. Okay, so format once and save the file. So as you can see, we are able to see the header. So now we're going to give some spacing to this particular div. That is this one, sorry, this one. So class name, so it's going to have basically flex, and it's going to have a gap of 40, and we're going to give it a margin of 40 and margin top of 20. So save the file. And as you can see, that's looking better. So now we're gonna style out the carousel images, that is the div of that. So give the class name. So I want it to be hidden in the small screen, so hidden. And from the large screen, I want it to be flex, that is flex row. And on the large screen, I want it to have a margin top of 12 and a gap of 10 as well, and margin top of 10 also. So format once and save the file. As you can see, that's looking better. Alright, so now the next step is we're gonna design the right part. So this is the left part, and I'm gonna initialize one more div that is for the right part. So div. So here, firstly, we're gonna show all of the different kinds of information. So it's gonna contain a h1 tag, which is gonna show the product.title. So product.title. And after that, we're going to show the p tag, which says color of that particular product. So to access the color, it's going to be product.color, right? So I'm going to say product.color. After this p tag, I'm going to initialize one more p tag, which says size. So size is going to be product.size. Okay, so save the file, and you should be seeing that over here. Okay, that's looking good. So now after the p tag, we're gonna have a h4 tag which says details. So I'm gonna say details over here, and we're gonna show basically the buttons. Firstly the price, and after that the buttons. So initialize a p tag to show the price, and here it's gonna be price. To access the product.price, we're gonna say product.price. Okay, so that's it, and save the file. Okay, that's looking good. So now we're gonna initialize the buttons that's gonna come after the p tag. So initialize a div for the buttons firstly. So it's gonna have two buttons. So the first button is gonna say add to cart, and the second one is gonna say buy now. So we're gonna say buy now. So the styling for this is going to be firstly a width of 60. It's going to have a rounded of medium, and it's going to have some internal spacing, that is padding of 2, some margin top of 2. Text is going to be extra small, and on the medium screen I want the text to be small. So I'm going to say text is small, and I wanted to have a bg gradient to bottom from yellow 200 to yellow 400, the same thing that we used previously. Okay, and yeah, so I'm going to give the same piece of styling for the second button as well, but this is going to be from yellow 400 to 500, and save the file. So for the button, I'm going to give the class name. Firstly, it's going to have flex column, and flex column we're going to give some space on the y-axis, so I'm going to say space y of 3. So save the file, and yep, I think that's looking better. Okay, so now we're going to give the styling for the view, that is the right part, to give some spacing between the texts. Okay, so here I'm going to say class name, firstly flex column and space y of 2. So save the file. As you can see, that's looking nice. So now we're going to give the style for the h1 tag and make it look bold. So class name, text is going to be large, text is large, and I'm going to say font as semi-bold. All right. Yep, I think that's looking nice. Okay, so let's check out for all the different products. So let's say I'm going to press on this particular product. Okay, so as you can see, we're going into that particular product and we only have one image in that particular product. Okay, that's looking good. So yep, I think that's it. So yes, I think let's provide that colon over here. All right, so now the next step is we're going to initialize the state to hold the index such that if at all I press on any one of the carousel images, the main image also should change. Okay, so over here I'm going to initialize my index. So here I'm going to say const index comma set index equals to use state. Initially it's going to be 0. All right, and we have a method known as on mouse enter. We're going to provide that method to this particular image, that is the carousel images. So we're going to say on mouse enter, take in a function, and we're going to say set the index to be of that particular index, that is this one that is coming from the map method. All right, let's also provide the key for this. It's going to be the index itself. So save the file, and we're going to make, okay, let's firstly import use state and initialize our directive, that is use client. So yep, now let's make it look dynamic. That is over here, the main image. Firstly, we were doing product.carousel images of 0. Now we're going to do product.carousel images of the index. So whatever index value is there, that particular image is going to show in as the main image. So let's give that a try. So currently, as you can see, it's showing everything correctly. So that's looking absolutely fine. So now the next step is we're going to initialize the on-press event on this add to cart button, as well as the add to cart button over here also. And then we're going to implement the add to cart functionality. So let's do firstly over here. So to do that, let's firstly go into the product component and do it over here. So I'm going to initialize my on click function on the add to cart button over here. So here I'm going to say on click. It's going to take in a function, and I'm going to initialize my function saying add item to cart of that particular item which I press on. So this is going to come from the props, as you can see. Okay, so now I'm going to define this function at the top. So I'm going to say const add item to cart equals to arrow function. It's going to take in the item as parameter. So here firstly I'm going to initialize my dispatch hook over here. So I'm going to say const dispatch equals to use dispatch. So here firstly I'm going to initialize my use dispatch hook. So I'm going to say const dispatch equals to use dispatch. All right, and import it from React Redux. And over here I'm going to say dispatch. We're going to import that particular function, that is add to cart, that we defined in the cart reducer file. So import it like this, and we're going to pass in the payload, that is going to be the item itself that is coming from the parameter. All right, so let's save the file. So that's it for add item to the cart. So when we press on add item to the cart for any particular product, it's going to go into this function and it's going to dispatch this event, and it's going to initialize add to cart function. So it's going to go over here, and firstly it's going to check if all the item is present. Okay, so it's going to be false because we are pressing on add to cart button for the first time since the cart is empty, and it automatically goes into the else condition, and it pushes the action.payload. That means basically the item details that is present, and it initializes a quantity of 1 for that particular product. So that's what's going to happen. So let's try this out first. So inside my, let's say, home screen or the page, the main page, here I'm going to initialize my cart. So I'm going to say const cart equals to initialize the use selector hook imported from React Redux. It's going to access the state. So it's going to be state.cart.cart. All right, state.the reducer's name. And if you check out the cart user, to access this particular piece of array, we need to say .cart because it is in the form of an object, right? So that's why I've written state.cart.cart. So here I'm going to say console.log of cart and save the file. So let's give this a try. And okay, I think we need to make use of the directive over here as well. So make sure you write use client. All right, so now let's check out our console once. All right, so as you can see, we have an empty array. I think that is okay. That is for the product feed. So let's press on the add to cart button for the first time on this particular product. So as you can see, this item has been added to the cart. As you can see, this is the page.js line number 11. So let's check that out. So we have all of the item information along with the quantity of 1 being initialized for that. All right, so that's the way this thing works. So of course, this item has been added into the cart. So let's press on this item. So as you can see, now there are 2 items in the cart, the first one and the second one. Okay, so yeah, this is working absolutely fine. So now if at all I press on the add to cart button for any one of the product, I need to show the UI saying added to cart instead of add to cart. So for that, firstly, I'm going to initialize my state and do this. So let's head over to the product.js component, and firstly I'm going to say const added set added equals to use state. Initially it's going to be false. Make sure you import use state from React, and let's write our directive over here. So I'm going to say use client. All right, so over here, as soon as I press on the add to cart button, I'm going to say set the added to be true. All right, and over here I'm going to write the condition. So here I'm going to say if at all it is added, just like this. Okay, I'm going to say I want the text to be this one, that is add to cart. Else I want to be add to cart itself. This is going to be added to cart, else it's going to be add to cart. So hopefully this should work. So save the file and let's give it a try. So if I press on add to cart, it should show added to cart for this and this as well. Yeah, it's working absolutely fine. So now the next step is, if at all I press on this particular icon, I need to be navigated to the cart screen, and then there we're going to show all of the products that are present inside of the cart. So firstly, let's create a new screen. There is a new folder. So press on app and then new folder. Let's say cart, and inside cart I'm going to initialize my page.js and RFCE. I'm just going to name it as cart. Okay, so format once and save the file. So if you can just check out over here, that is /cart, it's going to go into that page. So as you can see, we are coming to the cart page. Okay, so now let's initialize the link attribute to that particular icon that is present inside of our header. So let's go over here into the components, into the header. That is where we have the icon. Yeah, it has already been set up, so hopefully it should work. So let's press on cart. So as you can see, we are coming correctly to the cart. So now let's start designing our cart screen. All right, so firstly, inside the cart screen also we need access to our header. So let's just import that. So inside my page.js over here, I'm going to import my header from the components folder, just like this. All right, and save the file. As you can see, that's looking good. So now let's come back, and after this we're going to initialize my div. So this is the main div. So below, okay, apart from this, it contains two more divs. All right, so towards the left part of the div, we're going to show all of the products, and towards the right part of the div, we're going to show a bunch of UI information and the checkout button. So over here, I'm going to initialize my h2 tag, which says your shopping cart, and save the file. As you can see, we are able to see that on the screen. So yeah, so over here for the h2 tag, I'm going to give the class name. It's going to have a text of Excel and a font of bold. Okay, so now let's give some margin and some margin left and margin top to this particular div. So it comes towards this part. Okay, it's currently stuck to the leftmost part. So here I'm going to say class name. We're going to say flex column, and we're going to give it some margin top of 16 and a margin left of, let's say, 20. Save the file, and yep, I think that's looking better. So now after that, we're going to access the cart over here. We've already done that. Let's go to the page.js and copy this piece of code that is for the cart, and we're gonna go into the page.js of the cart, and here just paste that, import use selector, make use of the directive. All right, so here after the h2 tag, I'm going to say cart.map for every item and the index. I want you to return a new div. All right, so inside the div, the first thing I want is the image. So I'm gonna import the image from next /image, and we also need to configure that URL in the next.config.js, I guess. So src is gonna be item.image. All right, and we're gonna give it the width and height. So width is gonna be 80, and the height also is gonna be 80, and we're gonna say object fit is gonna be contain. So yeah, let's save the file. We would see that error, so let's refresh once. Let's add some items to the cart first. Yeah, so we need to configure this into our API, that is, into our next.config.js. So copy this out. Let's come back over here. Let's go into the next.config.js. That is this one, and over here I'm gonna paste in the images, which is gonna have a bunch of URLs that can be allowed to be used. Okay, so you can just copy this out and save the file. So we are initializing a domains array, which is going to contain the different bunch of URLs which we can use in the app. So after saving the file, automatically the server gets cut because we need to restart the server again. So I'm going to say yarn run dev again, and let's open this up again. Let's close the previous one. So hopefully now we need to be seeing the image being seen on the cart screen. So first two products, let's go to the cart screen, and yeah, as you can see, we're able to see both images being shown. That's good. So after that, let's come back to the page.js, and after the image we have the div over here. All right, and yeah, so inside this div we're going to have the p tag, which is going to say item.title, and after the p tag we have one more p tag, which is going to show us the price. So I'm going to say price, it's going to be item.price. So save the file. So as you can see, that's looking better. So now we're going to write the condition that is after the p tag. So for the products that are coming from the API, I think that has a description, and the products that are there inside of the deals that doesn't have a description, that has only color and size. So we're going to apply the condition and then implement this. So here I'm going to say, if at all we have the item.description, then show this p tag, else we're going to show a div with two p tags, that is basically the size and color. So firstly for this, if at all we have the item.description, then show that item.description. So yeah, if at all we do not have the item.description, then initialize my p tag with the color, that is item.color, one more p tag, that's for the size. So it's going to be item.size. So yep, save the file. So here it is going to show us the description because these are coming from the API. Okay. So let's give the styling for the description over here. So class name, it's going to have text of extra small, and it's going to have a line clamp of 2. We only want to see the first 2 lines, and font is going to be normal. Okay, just like this. And we're going to give the styling for this piece of code. So class name, we're going to give text small, and we're going to give a line clamp of 2 and font of normal. So for this also is going to be same. So I'm going to say class name, text of small, a line clamp of 2 and a font of normal. Yep, I think that's it. So now we're going to give the style for this price tag. So I'm going to say class name, text is going to be Excel, and it's going to have a font of semi-bold. And we're going to give the style for the title. So I'm going to say class name, it's going to have a text of small, and it's going to have a line clamp of 2. So for this div, I'm going to give it a flex grow. So save the file, and yep, as you can see, that's looking okay. When we design the right part of the screen, you should be seeing the text coming into the correct position. All right, so after that, we have basically the next steps, that is a bunch of buttons actually. So that's going to come after this div, I guess. Let's initialize that div. Yep, so this div is going to have a bunch of p tags, which is going to say delete, another p tag which is going to say save for later, and we have the third p tag which says see more like this. We have another p tag which is going to say share. So let's give the style for the outermost div. Let's save the file and look into this. So as you can see, we are able to see all of the p tags. So let's come back over here, and for each of the p tag we're going to give the style. So I'm going to say class name. Firstly, it's going to have a text of extra small, font of semi bold, text cyan 600, and cursor pointer. So I'm going to copy the same piece of class name for all of the p tags over here. So we just need the same styling. So save the file, and as you can see, that's looking okay. So now we're going to give the style for the outermost div that contains the p tag. So I'm going to give a flex of row, space x of 2, and margin top of 1. And just like this, yep, it's looking better. So yeah, so now let's give the styling for the outermost view. I think here I'm going to say class name. Firstly, I'm going to give relative to this, and I'm going to initialize my grid over here as well. So I'm going to say grid. I want grid columns of 8. Okay, and firstly grid columns of 8 for this one, and I want to be height of screen, and I want it to have a BG gray of 200. Okay, so for the outermost div I've given 8 columns of space, and for the first div I wanted to give 5 columns of space, and for the second div I want to give it 2 columns of space. So over here, the first div, to give 5 columns, we have something known as the column span. So to do that, I'm going to say give this a column span of 5. That means take up 5 columns of space, and for this I'm going to give class name, take 2 columns of space. So here it's going to be column span of 2. So I'm going to say column span of 2. All right, so let's save the file and let's come back over here. Okay, so now we're going to give the style for this particular div, that is after mapping. So I'm going to say class name. So it's going to have basically a border, and it's going to have a rounded, medium, some internal spacing, that is padding of 3, bg of white, shadow I'm going to give it medium, and I'm going to say flex row, and a space x of 4, and I'm going to give a margin y of 4 as well, that is based on the y-axis. Okay, so I think this div should come inside of this one because we have given flex direction of row. So after this I'm going to write this one. So format once and save the file. As you can see, that's looking better, right? So yeah, it's looking nice. So after that we have the icons coming in, that is to increase the quantity or decrease the quantity. So let's minimize this down, and we're gonna say heads to. Yeah, so here only we're gonna design the icons. So initialize a div for that. So firstly we're gonna have the button. So initialize the button. This button is gonna have the icon, that is the minus icon. So let's get the icon. So we're gonna go over here, search for minus, let's say minus small icon, copy this one, we're gonna paste it over here, and copy this icon and paste it over here. And after that we have a span tag, which is going to show us the quantity, that is going to be item.quantity. And after that we have one more button, that is the plus button. So let's search for plus button, that is plus small, copy this piece of code, and we're going to paste it over here. Copy that icon and paste it right here. So save the file. Yeah, I think we need to import React also. So React and React. Yeah, so let's add some items to the cart. Alright, as you can see, we're able to see the icon as well as the span tag. So now let's give the styling for the buttons over here. So firstly here I'm going to say class name, rounded full, and for this I'm going to give the class name. It's going to have a height of 4 and a width of 4. So let's copy the same piece of styling for the second icon as well. And so width of 4 over here, and it's going to have a background color of gray. So I'm going to say BG gray of 500. So over here as well, just copy the same class name and paste it over here. So for the span tag I'm going to give the class name text gray of 500, and I'm going to save the file. Okay, that's looking okay. So now we're going to give the style for the outermost div, that is this one. So initialize the class name. I'm going to say flex item center, and I'm going to give a space x of 2, and I'm going to give it and I'm going to give a margin top of 1, some spacing towards the top, and save the file. I think that's looking better. So for the text over here, let's keep it to be white. So text white and text white over here as well. Okay, yep, that's looking nice. So now the next part we'll be looking into is we're going to style the right portion of the cart screen. So let's come to this div, and firstly let's provide some margin top of 16 and margin left of 20. So firstly it's going to have a h3 tag which says choose a delivery location or delivery address, save the file. As you can see, we're able to see that text. Okay, so let's give the class name for this. So I'm going to say class name. It's going to have a margin bottom of 2, and after this we're going to initialize my one more div which is going to contain the remaining piece of information. So here firstly initialize another div. It's going to contain a h4 tag which says select location. After the h4 tag we have another p tag which says please select location so that we can find a place that delivers to you. Okay, something like this. And yeah, after that we have the button after the p tag which says add address, and we're going to save the file. So you should be able to see that design on the screen. So now we're going to start styling out the h4 tag. So firstly let's come over here and give the class name. So this is going to have a text of extra small and a text gray of 100 or 200. Okay, 200 we can't see anything because the background also is 200. Let's give 400. Yeah, that's looking okay. And now for the p tag I'm going to give the class name, so text of extra small and text gray of 400. So yes, that's looking good. So for the button I'm going to give class name, rounded small, padding y of 1, margin top of 2, and I'm going to give it some text of small and basically a font of semi bold and a text gray of 600. So let's look at this. Okay, that's looking fine. So now we're going to give the style for the container, that is this div. So class name bg of white, and it's going to have some internal spacing, padding of 4 and rounded of small. Okay, yep, that's looking fine. Next let's initialize our h3 tag which says offers, like this, and save the file. Okay, so yeah, after this we are going to have one more div which has another div inside of it which has a h4 tag which says apply coupon, and we're going to have a p tag which says get discount, with your order. Okay, so save the file. Okay, so now let's start styling out the h3 tag. So firstly I'm going to give class name a margin top of 4, and I'm going to give the same piece of class name that we gave to this particular div. So just copy that out over here, and for the h4 and the p tag I'm going to give the same piece of styling as well. So copy that and copy that. Okay, yes, that's looking good, and we're going to give it some margin top as well. So for this I'm going to give margin top of 2 and margin top of 2. Save the file. Yes, that's looking nice. So yeah, after that we're going to show the price details. So let's initialize our h3 tag over here which says price details, and let's give the class name to this, basically margin top of 1, and we're going to initialize our div tag. This is going to contain another div which is going to have a h4 tag which says subtotal, and apart from the subtotal we're going to have another p tag which is going to show us the total price. So let's just hard code it for now. Let's say 500 and save the file. All right, so now for this particular div I'm going to give the style. So class name, basically a background color of white, rounded of small, and margin top of 2, and we're going to give it some internal spacing, padding of 3 and space y of 3. Alright, so now let's start styling out the h4 tags. So here I'm going to say class name, text of extra small. For this one, class name, text of small, font of normal. Alright, that's looking good. So for this div, I'm going to give the styling. So class name, I'm going to give it flex basically, items of center, and justify between. So just like this, it's looking better. And I'm just going to copy this a couple of times. So this is going to be discount, and it's just going to be empty for now. And this is going to be taxes and charges. So here, let's hardcode the value 64 something or 65, something like this. Okay, that's looking better. Let's add that rupees over here as well. All right, and after that we're gonna have a HR tag that is self-enclosing. Give the class name, width of full, margin top of 1, decoration is going to be dotted. Yep, save the file. Okay, that's looking fine. Let's give some space between the rupees and the price amount over here and over here as well. Okay, so after this we're going to have the button where we can place the order. So I'm going to say button. So here I'm going to say place order. Give the class name for this firstly, BG yellow of 500, text of center, font of normal, text of white, rounded of medium, padding y, vertical spacing of 2, padding x, horizontal spacing of 3, width of full. So that's the styling for the button. So save the file, and yep, that's looking better. So yeah, the next step is pretty much we're going to calculate the total price, and then we're going to make it look dynamic. So here I'm going to say const total equals to, we have access to the cart, so I'm going to say cart dot map. For every item, multiply the item dot price into the quantity that is present inside the cart. So this will give for one product. So if there are n number of products, we are going to apply the reduce method. Further, it's going to take in the previous and the current value, and here I'm going to say give me the previous plus the current value, and this reduce method is going to have an initial value. I'm going to provide 0. So this total price I'm going to show over here, or we're going to say const grand total equals to the total plus that 65 rupees, whatever that is there. So let us just show the grand total over here. Instead of 500, it's going to be grand total. So yep. Okay, just a minute. So this should be the total. Okay, and we're going to copy this one more time, and after the HR tag we're going to say the grand total, grand total. All right, and here I'm going to show the grand total price. So now let's check it out. So yeah, 132 plus 65, it's going to be 197.25. okay, yep, I think that's looking better. So now for the grand total, let's make it font of bold. So over here I'm going to say font of bold, and for this I'm going to make it the 2 fixed value. Since we have a decimal, I just want it to be to the 2 decimal places, so I'm going to say 2 fixed of 2. So the same thing is going to come for the total also. So total dot 2 fixed of 2. Yep. All right, so now we're going to initialize the on press event on the plus button, minus button, and the delete button. So if at all you press on the plus button, the quantity should get increased, and if you press on the minus button, the quantity should get decreased. So here I'm going to say on click, I'm going to say increase quantity of that particular item. All right, so let's define this function at the top. Firstly, let's initialize our dispatch. So const dispatch equals to use dispatch. Import that from React Redux. So I'm going to say const increment quantity equals to item. That is coming from the props. That is coming from this particular function. I think that is increase quantity, I guess. Increase quantity. So here I'm going to say dispatch increment quantity function from the cart user file, and the payload is going to be item. That's it. So now we're going to initialize the on press event on, the on click event on the minus button. So I'm going to say on click, taking a function, I'm going to say decrease quantity of that particular item. So let's define this function at the top over here. So I'm going to say const or decrease quantity equal to, it's going to take in the item, and we're going to say dispatch, this time is going to be decrement quantity. Import that from the carted user file, and the payload is going to be item, that is coming from the parameter. So that's it. So the next step is initialize on press event on the delete button. Over here, this one, I guess. Yeah. So I'm going to say delete item of that particular item that we press on. So this item is coming from the map, this one. Okay, so I'm going to say const delete item equals to taking the item from the parameter, and here I'm going to say dispatch, we have a remove item from cart, that automatically removes the item from the cart based on the filter method. So import remove item, remove from cart from the carted user file, and pass in the payload, that is item, coming from the parameter. So that's it. So now let's go check it out if it's correctly working. So over here I'm going to press on the plus button. So as you can see, the quantity is increasing. Minus button, again over here also we are able to see the change. So if at all for this also is working correctly fine. So if at all I press on the delete button, this product should be removed from the cart, right? So as you can see, that's looking absolutely fine. Yes, so as you can see, everything's working absolutely fine. So we have set up the cart system correctly, and all of the functions are working fine. So now let's check if we have done that for the deals, right? That is over here inside the page.js. Yeah, let's do that over here also. So we just need to copy the same piece of code that we gave to the product. So copy the state, come into this page, and we're gonna paste it over here. Make sure to import, firstly initialize the dispatch. So const dispatch equals to use dispatch. Okay, import use state is already imported, and yeah, we're gonna initialize on press event on the add to cart button, that is this one, and yep, paste it over here. And apart from that, yeah, we need to make this change as well. Okay, so yes, that's working absolutely fine. So yeah, we have set up the cart system. We have set up the on click function over here as well. Yeah, so this should also work correctly. Okay, it's gonna work. So yeah, that's it. So now the next step is, if at all we press on the place order, we're gonna initialize the Stripe payment. So even before we look into the Stripe payment, we're gonna initialize our Sanity backend, and then we're gonna get all of the products, that is the deals, from the backend. Okay, so for that, firstly let's come into the terminal and let's see how we can install Sanity. So now firstly we need to create a fresh Sanity project. So let's go do that. So inside my terminal here, I'm going to say npm create sanity at latest. and I'm going to press on enter. So this should ask us a bunch of questions. Okay, so here I'm going to say create new project, and then I'm going to press on enter. So it's going to ask us the project name. So here I'm going to say e-commerce app. You can give any project name and then press on enter. So use the default dataset configuration. I'm going to press on yes and enter. And for the next one, would you like to add the configuration for a Sanity project in this Next.js folder? For this, I do not want to do it, so I'm going to press on no. So this is going to be a project output path, so I'm going to press on yes, the default one. So here I'm going to make use of a block schema, and TypeScript I'm going to say no. And yep, I think it should ask us a package manager, so we're going to use yarn. And yeah, it's going to take in a couple of minutes to initialize this particular project, that is e-commerce app, where our Sanity will be initialized. So let's give it some time. Okay guys, so our project has been initialized, as you can see. So if you check out our file tree, a new folder that is e-commerce app is being created for us, where our Sanity is being initialized. So now the next step is we need to install two things into our main package.json. So come into this particular directory, that is e-commerce web. Here I'm going to say yarn add Sanity, and we're going to say next Sanity. We need both of them. So let's install this. So this should be installed into the main package.json, that is over here, right? So let's give it a couple of minutes. So as you can see, we have installed Sanity as well as next Sanity. So now let's look into this folder, that is e-commerce app. So here we have the schemas folder, where they have a bunch of schemas that are already pre-written. So here we're going to create a new schema, that is our deal schema. So I'm going to say deal.js. Okay, so here we're going to write all of the fields that are required for the deals schema. So the first step over here is I'm going to say import. We need the define type. So I'm going to say import define type from Sanity, just like this. And here I'm going to say export default define type. So export default define type, which is going to take in the name, that is going to be deal. And we have the title. So title is going to be deals, and it's going to have a type. So it's going to be a type of document. So I'm going to say type of document. And after this, we're going to have all of the fields that are going to be present inside this deal schema. So the first field I'm going to write is the title. So name is going to be title. And for the and after this we have the title, that's going to be title in with T capital, just like this. And we're going to say type of string. Okay, so that's the first one, that is the title of that particular product. And after that we have the offer, that's the offer field. So we're going to say name as offer. The title is going to be offer with O capital, and this also is going to be a type of string. All right, so this is the second field that we have initialized. Now the third one we'll be looking into is the old price. So here I'm going to say old price, that is the name. And for the title we're going to say old price with O capital, just like this. And this is going to be a type of number. So here I'm going to say type, and we're going to write in number. Okay, so now the next one is related to the price. So name is going to be price, and the title is going to be price as well. And over here the type for this also is going to be number. And after that we have the image of that particular product. So name is going to be image, and we have the title, that is going to be image with I capital. All right, and we have the type of string. So I'm going to say type of string. And after that we have, of course, the carousel images for that particular product. So I'm going to say name, it's going to be carousel images. Make sure you write the correct spelling, whatever we have written in the front end part. So next is the title. So title is going to be carousel images with C capital. All right, and this is going to be a type of array, right? So we're going to say type of array. We're going to write of which type, in the sense we're going to write in the array, and it's going to be array of objects, that is in the form of a string. And after this we're going to have basically the color and the size attributes. So over here I'm going to say name as color, and the title is going to be again color with C capital, and it's going to have a type of string. And after this we're going to have the final one, that is going to be the size. So I'm going to say name as size and title as a size, and it's going to be a type of string. Yep, that's it. So we have defined our required fields for the deal schema. So now the next step is, if you check out our index.js, they have exported all of the required schema types. So in our case, we just want the deal schema. So you can pretty much remove everything. Actually, you can delete all of the files that is not required. So here I'm going to import my deal schema. So import deal from deal and save the file. So now we're going to run the Sanity project. So to do that, make sure you're into this particular folder, e-commerce app, and not into e-commerce web. So here, come over here inside the terminal, and here I'm going to say cd to e-commerce app. So over here, to run the project, I'm going to say yarn run dev. So this should open up the Sanity Studio on Google Chrome. So let's wait for that. So as you can see, it is running. So yeah, so our Sanity is running on this particular URL. So let's press on this. So this is basically our Sanity Studio, where we can add some data and we can fetch it from the backend. So let's log in with Google. So as you can see, we have our deal schema over here. So we can press on this icon, and over here we're going to add all of the data. Okay, so I'm just going to add a couple of products and I'll be back. So you can pretty much copy all of the information from the offers array that is present inside of the deals component. Okay guys, so I've just added information for the 3 products, as you can see over here. Okay, so I've just copied down all of the information that is present inside of my offers data in the deals component, right? So now the next step is, you need to query the data and then fetch all of this information into our front end part. So if you press on the vision button over here, we can query the data over here. So it's going to be super simple. So to query all of the information that is present inside of the deal schema, we're going to say _type equals to deal. So this should basically return us 3 products, right? Because we have 3 products inside of our deals schema. So let's press on fetch. So as you can see, it is returning us 3 products. With the help of this information and with the help of this query, we're going to start and design the front end part. So firstly, we need to initialize this query, and then initialize a function, and then get all of this data so that we can use this data instead of the hard-coded ones. So now let's come back over here, and we are going to go into our, firstly we need to create a client to initialize this part. So I'm going to create a new file, that is sanity.js, inside of the e-commerce app. So I'm going to say new file, and I'm going to say sanity.js, just like this. So here firstly we need access to 4 things. There is a project ID, the dataset, the API version, and the token. So firstly here I'm going to say import create client from Next Sanity, and over here I'm going to say export const client equals to create client. So this is going to take in an object, and here firstly we need to pass in the values for the project ID. So to get the project ID, there are 2 ways. One is present inside of sanity.cli.js. This is the project ID. Okay, one more way is, let's go into Sanity Studio. So press on the drop down and select manage project, and over here as you can see, we can copy the project ID from here as well. Okay, or you can copy it from the sanity.cli.js. So after that, I'm going to say data set is going to be production, and I'm going to say use CDN, and I'm going to set it to be true, and we're going to write in the API version, that's going to be this one. Alright, and finally we need access to the token. So to get the token, let's go over here and let's press on API, let's press on tokens. We're going to say add API token. So here I'm just going to say editor, give any name you want to. So in my case I'm going to say e-commerce, and I'm going to press on save. So I'm just going to copy this generated token and I'm going to paste it over here, just like this. Okay, so save the file. So now we have created our client. So with the help of this, we're going to fetch the information that is present inside of the deal schema. So to do that, let's come into our deals.js file. So here I'm going to initialize my async function. So I'm going to say async function get data. Here I'm going to say return client, import client from that particular e-commerce file, that is from sanity.js. Here I'm going to say client.fetch, and here I'm going to make use of the grok, import grok from next sanity, and this is pretty much going to take in the query that we just wrote. So just copy that query from over here, and we're going to paste it right over here, just like this. Alright, so now the next step is we're going to initialize our use effect, and then we're going to call the function. So firstly, let's initialize our state. So here I'm going to say const posts, comma set posts equals to use state, and initially it's going to be an empty array. So make sure you import use state. We also need use effect, so import that as well. So use effect. So now the next step is we're going to initialize our use effect. So here I'm going to say use effect, and inside the use effect we're pretty much going to call the function that is get data. So after calling, we're going to apply the then method to it, which is going to have the data whatever is present. So over here I'm going to say set the posts to be that particular data. Alright, and if at all there is any error in executing this, we're going to catch that error. So after the then method, I'm going to say dot catch of error, and here I'm just going to say console.log of error fetching the data, something like this, or error fetching posts, and here I'm going to say give me that particular error. Okay, I think I made a mistake. Instead of use effect, I've written use state. So yeah, I'm gonna call this one time. So make use of empty dependency array. So yep, I think that's it. So hopefully we should be seeing the posts if we have done everything correctly. So let's console.log the posts and check it out. So console.log of posts, and yep, we're gonna save the file. Okay, so let's see if we have got the data. Let's go into our website over here, and we're gonna go into the console, inspect, and then console. Okay, I think there is an error, so because we are not able to see any kind of array, right? So let's refresh once and let's check what exactly the error is. Okay, oh okay, this is for the products, I guess. So error fetching posts, error while adapting, okay, error while attempting to reach this particular some link they've given. So let's see where we've gone wrong. So there is some kind of error stating that this URL has been blocked by the course policy. I think we need to add this particular URL, that is localhost 3000, into our Sanity Studio, so that it gets allowed by this particular course policy. So to do that, let's head over to our Sanity Studio. Let's go over here. So to get over here, just press on your icon and then manage project. You would come to this particular tab. So here let's press on course origins. Okay, so currently this one is allowed. So I'm going to say add a course origin, and here I'm going to pass in my URL, that is localhost 3000. So you can add that over here, http:/localhost 3000. And yep, I'm going to press on save. So after it gets saved, okay, so it's not allowed, so let us allow it. Firstly, let's delete it, and let's again add it. I'm going to say allow credentials, and I'm going to press on save. Okay, so as you can see, now our website URL is allowed. So hopefully I'm going to cut the server once and then I'm going to restart. So let's remove that, and over here I'm just going to cut the server, and here I'm going to say yarn run dev. So hopefully it should work this time. Let's give this a try. So let's inspect and then console. So as you can see, we are able to see the correct array. We have 3 items, and these are basically our products. Okay, so with the help of this, we're just gonna change the array. So instead of offers, we're gonna say make use of the posts. So inside of our deals, that is over here, let's come to the src, into the deals, that is into the components and then deals. So over here, instead of offers previously, that was hard coded with data, here I'm going to say posts. So now let's go check out our website. So as you can see, we have 3 products that I've added from the backend part. So over here, we're going to make the change where we have up to. After that offer, I'm going to add that percentage symbol. All right, let's provide some space over here. Okay, I think now it's looking good. All right, so now the next step is, if at all I press on this particular product, it should go into the next screen, that is a product info screen, and give the information of that particular product. So for that also we're going to query it out. So to do that, we're going to go into the page.js of the product over here. All right, so firstly we were making use of params. Again, we're going to make use of the similar thing but with the help of the query. So here I'm going to say const id equals to params. I'm just restructuring the id. You can do this way also. And after that, firstly I'm going to initialize my use effect over here. Let's do this at the bottom part, and here I'm going to say use effect, import use effect from React, just like this. Right, and I'm going to make use of the empty dependency array with the dependency being that particular id. Okay, so here I'm firstly going to check if at all the id is present, then only execute this particular function. So here I'm going to say const fetch data equals to async. Firstly I'm going to say const query equals to, again we're going to make use of grok, import grok from Next Sanity, and this is going to be the query, that is star underscore type equals to deal. Okay, so this query gives us all of the products, but we are only interested in the product that matches this particular id that is coming from the params, right? So to do that, I'm going to say star type equals to, underscore type equals to deal, and the underscore id should be equals to the id that is coming from the params. So here I'm going to say underscore id. So over here, after doing that, I'm going to need the first product from that. So I'm going to say 0. Okay, I don't think this is necessary, that is the curly braces. So let's remove that out and we can save the file. Okay, so here firstly I'm going to say const data equals to await. We're going to import the client over here. So import client from that particular folder, that is sanity.js file, and with the help of fetch, I'm going to initialize the query like this. That is the query that we just defined, and it's going to take in the id as a parameter. And after doing that, firstly let's initialize our state to hold the product. So here I'm going to say const product comma set product equals to use state. Initially it's going to be null. So we already have the product that was done previously, so let's comment this out, that's not required. And after we get the data, I'm just going to say set the product to be of that particular data, and after that I'm just going to call the function, that is fetch data. Okay, so I think hopefully we should be seeing the correct product if we press on the item. So save the file and let's head over to the web page. So hopefully let's press on the first item, and okay, I think we have an error. I don't think we are able to see all of the product details. So firstly let's do one thing, let's console.log the product and see what detail we are getting. So I'm just gonna copy this and paste it over here. So let's inspect once over here. What is the correct details? Okay, it is null. It's currently null. So I think there is something wrong with the query that we have written. So let's look into it correctly. So we are saying star type equals to deal. Okay, and we're gonna say underscore id equals to the dollar id, and we're gonna pass and we're gonna get the first product from that. Okay, I think I know what the mistake is over here. If you check out the URL, it is showing as /product and /undefined, because in the link when we press on the deals, Okay, we were just saying item.id, but in the data it is going to be item._id. If you can check out the console, or if you can check out the Sanity Studio, that is over here. As you can see, we have something known as the underscore id, whereas when we hard coded the value, we were just using id, right? So now it should work. So save the file, and now this id should match with the id that we pressed on, and it should give us the correct results, hopefully. So let's go back over here and let's press on the first product, and as you can see, it's working absolutely fine. That was a mistake, so make that change, and yep, I think that's it. So we're able to add the items into the cart, and we're able to get all of the data from the backend as well. So now if at all we press on the place order button, we're going to initialize our Stripe payment gateway. All right, so firstly we're going to come into the terminal and then install some dependencies required for Stripe. So open up a new terminal, and with the help of yarn, I'm going to say yarn add Stripe, and along with this we're going to install this as well, that is Stripe.js. So let's press on enter. So after installing these two dependencies, create a .env file at your root of the directory, like this .env file, and into that env file we need to add two things, that is the Stripe secret key and the Stripe publishable key. So to get that, firstly let's head over to Chrome and then search for Stripe. We're going to go into the Stripe dashboard. So firstly you have to log in, and then after logging in, we're gonna get access to two things, that is the Stripe secret key and the publishable key. All right, so make sure you're in the test mode over here. As you can see, this is the test data. So over here we have two keys, that is the publishable key and the secret key. So do one thing. So firstly create the .env file as I told, and into that copy two things as I do it right now. Okay, so I've added both of the keys in my .env file. I'm just going to show that. Okay, so it should be in this format, that is next_public_stripe_publishable key and next_public_stripe_secret key. Okay, so with the help of this, you're gonna initialize the Stripe payment gateway. So we're gonna close this file, and we're gonna go into, firstly we're gonna create a endpoint for the payment. So for that, let's come into the root directory and then create the pages folder. And inside the pages folder, we're going to create the API folder, and inside the API we're going to create the root, that is the payment. So we're going to say payment, and inside the payment we're going to create the index.js file where we're going to define the root. Okay, so that's it. So here firstly we're going to say import Stripe from Stripe, and here I'm going to say const Stripe equals to new Stripe, and here I'm going to say process.env.next_public_Stripe secret key. Okay, make sure the spelling is correct for that. That is whatever you're given over here, it should be the same spelling over here as well. Okay, so after that I'm going to say export a default function. It's going to be an async function. Here I'm going to say handler, which is going to have of course the request and the response in the function. And over here I'm going to say if the request dot method equals to post, then we're going to define it over here. So firstly here I'm going to initialize my try catch block. So basically catch of error. Here I'm going to say result.status of error dot that particular status code, or a 500 dot JSON with that particular error dot message. Okay, that's it. So now inside the try block, firstly we need access to the cart items that is going to come from the request dot body, right? So here I'm going to say const body equals to request dot body. And firstly we need access to something known as the line items. Okay, so I'm going to define that. So I'm going to say const line items equals to body dot map. So this body is basically our cart items that is present inside of the cart. So I'm going to say body dot map for every item for every item over here. I'm going to say return the price underscore data. It's going to be in the form of an object. So I'm going to write in the currency. It's going to be INR. So I'm going to say INR, or you can use USD as well. And I'm going to say product underscore data is going to be again an object. And here we're going to write in the name. So it's going to be item.title to access the name of the product that is present inside of the cart. And after that we're going to say unit amount. So I'm going to say unit underscore amount equals to item.price multiplied by 100. Okay, and after that we have the quantity over here. So I'm going to say quantity, it's going to be item.quantity, whatever has been added to the cart. So item.quantity, and we're going to say adjustable. That means before paying we can increase the item and or decrease the item from the Stripe payment gateway. So here I'm going to say adjustable quantity. Again it's going to be an object. So firstly I'm going to say enabled is going to be true, and minimum is going to be 1, minimum 1, and a maximum is going to be 10. All right, so yep, that's it about the line items. So after that we're going to define our params. So I'm going to say const params equals to an object. So here I'm going to say submit type. So all of this information will be available in the docs. You can pretty much directly copy it down. So I'm going to say submit type is going to be pay. A mode is going to be payment. Okay, and we're going to say payment underscore method underscore types. It's going to take an array of method types. So here I'm just going to say card. All right, and after that we have the billing address collection. So I'm going to say billing address collection. It's going to be auto, and we can enable this, or you can skip this part, that is invoice creation. Enabled is going to be true. And over here we need to pass the line items, that is compulsory. So we're going to say line underscore items is going to be this one which we have defined, that is line items itself. And after that we're going to have the two URLs, that is success URL and the failure URL. So I'm going to say success underscore URL. So it's going to be http localhost 3000 / success. We're just going to define an image and a message inside this page. And the next one is cancel URL. You can show a different kind of message if the user cancels the payment. So here I'm going to say http localhost 3000 / cancelled. Okay, after that I'm going to say we need to create a checkout session from the body parameters. So here I'm going to say const session equals to await stripe dot checkout dot sessions dot create, and to this method we're going to pass in all of our parameters, so of that particular params. Okay, so here it's going to return us basically the session ID. So here I'm going to say return result dot status of 200 dot JSON with that particular session. So I think that's it. So okay, I think we could write even the else condition over here. Okay, if at all the method is not equals to post, I'm going to say result dot status of 405 dot end, saying this method is not allowed. Okay, so we have defined the function for the payment integration. So we can save the file. So now the next step is we're going to initialize the onPress event on the card that is present. I mean on the button that is there inside of the card screen. So that is over here. So here on the place order, I'm going to say on click equals to handle checkout. You can give any function name you want to. So let's define this function right at the top. So here I'm going to say const handle checkout equals to a async function. Okay, so this firstly we need to initialize our Stripe promise. So to do that, here I'm going to say const Stripe promise equals to load Stripe. Import that from that particular dependency that we installed, that is Stripe.js. So this is going to take in basically the publishable key. So you can go to Chrome and then copy this the publishable key, and then you're going to paste it into this method just like this. All right, so yep, so inside the function over here, I'm firstly going to say const stripe equals to await Stripe promise that we just defined, that is this one. And after that I'm going to initialize my response. So I'm going to say const response equals to await fetch. So the URL is going to be /API/payment. Correct? So that's the correct URL. And we're going to pass in some parameters over here, that is basically the method and all the other details. So method is going to be of course post. All right, and we're going to pass in the headers, that is basically the content type is going to be application/JSON, and we're going to say cache, that is over here. Currently we're going to say no cache, and we're going to pass in the body. So it's going to be json.stringify. The body is going to be basically the cart itself, that is containing all of our product items. So yep, after initializing the response, so I'm going to say const data equals to await response.json. Firstly convert it into JSON format, and you can console log the data if you want. Okay, and here I'm going to say if at all we have the data.session, then here I'm going to say stripe dot redirect to checkout. We have this method. Okay, so here we need to pass in the session ID. That's going to be data.session.id. Okay, so that's it. And if at all there is any error, we're going to catch it over here. So here I'm going to say catch of error. Yep, I think that's looking okay. So yeah, so save the file. So hopefully let's give this a try. If at all we are able to include that particular if you're able to see that particular Stripe payment gateway. So I'm going to press on place order. So as you can see, the Stripe payment gateway is loaded. Okay, so towards the left we have the information of all of the products with the quantity, and we have the price towards the right. So we can enter the details over here. So I'm going to enter the card information, and over here as well, and name on the card, and this is the country. So after we press on pay, and if at all the payment is successful, we are going to go into this particular URL, that is where is that is this one. Okay, localhost 3000/success. So currently we're going to get an error because we do not have that URL, right? So let's firstly check. So I'm going to press on pay. So it's currently processing, and after this gets complete, it's going to go into that URL. As you can see, page could not be found. So now we're going to design this out. So firstly let's come over here, src, and then app, create a new folder, that is success, and we're going to create a page.js. So basically it's just going to contain image and a basic text. So rfce. So here I'm going to say let's say success. So I'm just going to get the code for the success page. Okay guys, you can just copy down the code for the success page. So it basically contains the header, of course, import that from the components folder, and it contains a div which contains the image towards the left side, and towards the right side it's going to contain basically a text which says order placed successfully. Okay, so save the file, and as you can see, you're going to show this particular order placed successfully screen. Okay, so that's it about this project. We have done it in a simple way. That is all of the implementations that can be done. So I think, yeah, so let's see in the next video, and then thank you for watching.